It occurs to me that some of the concepts in Oddworld are absolutely terrifying. The roster of enemies the games throw at you are on par with Greek mythology. They're really quite varied with unique abilities, motives and methods of how to beat them. In fact, it's quite surprising that they haven't really made a game out of Greek mythology. Oh wait, they did, and it was the best game ever, created by a mouse. Oddworld, in my opinion, is on par with the varied characters and villains which, while often played to comic relief, in some instances are shown to be horrifying and with a stretch of imagination could be utterly petrifying. You have the Fleeches, the Vikers, the Interns, the Scrabs, the Greeters, the Paramites. Now you're possibly thinking, are these really all that terrifying? The Fleeches, maybe the Vikers, perhaps in the bad ending of Munch's Odyssey, but really terrifying? Well, in some ways they are. And what I like about the storytelling of Oddworld is that they're all terrifying in their own unique way. Fleeches are fast, relentless giant worms with two heads that kill you immensely painfully with their eyes as sharp tongues. Vikers are sadistic experimenters whose success has come simply as an incidental consequence of their enjoyment of causing others pain. The Interns are slaves forced to work in hospitals of misery for sadistic masters that stitch their lips up to prevent them from making noise. The Scrabs are strong territorial animals that kill any living thing nearby, even their own kind, simply to rule their ground. The Greeters, created by accident, are mindless robots whose
creepy mechanical voice
and unnerving appearance make them incredibly disturbing. And Paramites are perhaps the most horrific looking creatures on Oddworld that will lure you into a false sense of security until there's enough of them to eat you alive. There's way more I could have said, but I'll leave it to those examples for now. But I just think it's really fascinating and impressive way in the space of a couple of games Oddworld has created so many enemies that are terrifying, but each one has a different reason for why it's terrifying, even in gameplay wise. Take a zombie game for example. Oh look, there's a zombie. Oh look, there's another type of zombie. What's different about that type of zombie? Oh, it has more health. It's like most games and genres, I think, don't really invest much in having variety in their enemies and what's unique to each one, so I think it's really good what Oddworld has done with its universe. If an enemy is different in one of these games, generally it's because they actually are different gameplay wise. It's not just an aesthetic or strength change, which is kind of a cheap way to add variety in my opinion. If an enemy is different from another enemy, it should be more than simply a different skin and a health boost, which I'm not sure if there's many games that have done that kind of variety as well as at least the first two Oddworld games. I feel like they let this slip a bit with Munch's Odyssey and even to some degree Stranger's Wrath, wherein it seemed to me that generally enemies were differentiated mainly by how much health they had, as well as merely a different appearance. I hope this is something that makes a return to the Oddworld franchise in Oddworld Soulstorm. They say this game will be the darkest in the series, and one of the things that made the original games dark, in my opinion, was the fact that there were so many different types of threats to the player, each one being terrifying for their own reason. I hope that they consider this and implement a similar variety of monsters and villains in Oddworld Soulstorm.
hello, follow me.